Today's lesson is AI art, Renaissance or threat. Hi everybody, my name's Roger.
Hello, I'm Kiki.
And today we're going to continue talking about AI, artificial intelligence. And a lot of people are concerned about AI, and we're focusing specifically on art created by AI, but of course it could affect other areas of our lives. As an announcer, as a broadcaster, of course, I'm concerned that some of those speech programs in AI may actually take away our jobs. You might get artificial teachers in the future. Hopefully, you all will prefer human teachers instead of machine ones, but that's another topic for another day. Again, we're focusing on AI art.
And a lot of artists, human artists, are concerned that this might affect their jobs. And certainly there are graphic designers or other artists that they need to use this as their means to make a living.
Exactly. So some people may think this is good because it might give those artists some new ideas by using AI, or it might be a threat and take away their jobs. And again, they'll have to go back to college and study something else. So let's continue talking about AI art in today's lesson. First of all, we'll listen to the first part and we'll come back to discuss it.
Both the quality of AI art and the way it's generated have raised several points of contention and concern. Perhaps the most heated revolves around the aforementioned images that the AIs are trained on. In most cases, these images were not used with the original creator's consent, nor were the original creators compensated in any way for the use of their work.
大家好，第一部分我们看到动词 compensate， 它的意思是弥补、补偿或是赔偿。例如 Glenn has a lot of enthusiasm, which compensates for his lack of skill. Glenn 拥有很多热忱，可以弥补他技术上的不足。又或者说 Jack compensates for his lack of natural talent by working harder. Jack 借由更加努力来弥补自己缺乏天分。
Okay, in the first part here, it begins by saying, both the quality of AI art and the way it's generated have raised several points of contention and concern. So we've got two aspects here, the quality of AI art and also the way it's produced or the way it's generated. And both of those aspects have brought up some points of contention and of concern. Now, contention means that it's controversial and people don't agree with it. It's a heated disagreement. And again, people are on both sides of this issue. Some people think it's good. Some people think it's bad. And then, of course, there are several points of concern, which, of course, is all about all sorts of aspects. Is this real art? Are we looking at the real thing? Or should we respect human-produced art? And again, will it affect the livelihoods of artists?
Perhaps the most heated revolves around the aforementioned images that the AIs are trained on. So to begin with, these AI, artificial intelligence, they need to be trained by humans too, right? So we mentioned before, they need to harvest these images from the internet. So they need to collect a lot of data. So how does AI collect these data? And do people feel comfortable having their data put on the internet and getting collected?
Indeed, that's a good question. Of course, we've got the issue of privacy there, but it seems that people are so willing to put their images on the internet, I think it's too late to take it back again. But again, we've got this heated debate, and it revolves around the aforementioned images that the AIs are trained on. To revolve around just means to center on that thing that is the basis of the discussion. And if something's aforementioned, it's something that we mentioned before. We talked about harvesting images from the internet, and we gave an example of a frog playing the piano. And of course, we have the data sets that these programmers have, and they put them into the program. And that's how all this stuff works, and that's where the discussion is focused. In most cases, these images were not used with the original creator's consent. nor were the original creators compensated in any way for the use of their work. So in the aforementioned example of the frog playing the piano, yes, indeed, the computer program got an image from the internet somewhere, and it was probably a picture of a frog posted by somebody who traveled to, say, the Amazon rainforest or something and posted a picture of a frog that they saw there. But they're not being compensated. They're not being paid for the photograph because it just came off the internet, and I guess there was no copyright or anything like that. And then, of course, we've got pianos as well that were in the picture. Maybe Steinway and Sons are upset that their piano is being featured in this picture that was created by artificial intelligence.
So here we see the word compensated. And when you compensate someone is when you pay somebody for their service or pay them for something that they have done or created. So in this case, the original owners or the original creators, they were not paid for the work that they've done because their images were just harvested. And we also see original creators consent. So consent is when you ask somebody for permission. So they were not asked if their images can be used by AI.
Indeed. So that's another question we need to answer. Is it ethical to do that? Is it moral? And can you do that and get away with it and make money without getting permission from the original producers of the images first? Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Let's move on now to the second part. We will listen to it first.
This has led many artists to argue that AI art generators have been trained on stolen art. Even though the art that AI creates is original, that is, it's not an exact copy of anyone else's art, the fact that it uses the labor of real artists without paying for it is something that many artists find unacceptable. Add to this the fact that AIs are being used by companies as cheaper, faster alternatives to employing real people, and it's easy to understand why many working artists are so upset.
第二部分我们看到名词 labor， 它的意思是劳动成果、劳作或是体力劳动。例如 After putting in a lot of labor, Alfred finally finished the bathroom repairs. 在投入许多劳力后 Alfred 终于完成了浴室修缮工作。又或者说 They make little money considering the amount of labor they provide. 考量到他们所付出的劳力，他们赚的钱不多。下一个我们看到名词 alternative， 意思是替代品，可供选择的事物。例如 After my flight was cancelled, I was left with no alternative but to spend the night in a hotel. 在我的航班被取消后，我别无选择，只能在饭店过夜。或是 Are there any cheaper alternatives to this software? 这个软体有没有更便宜的替代品呢？另外，这个字也可以当作形容词，它指的是替代的或是可供选择的。例如 Donna doesn't eat meat, so she has to find alternative sources of protein. Donna 不吃肉，所以她必须找其他的蛋白质来源。再举一个例子 The road is blocked. Do you know an alternative way to get to the stadium? 这条路被封了，你知道能到达体育场的替代道路吗？
Okay, so again, this is controversial. Some people think that AI is a renaissance, a rebirth in art. We're going to see some really cool images in the future. It's something to look forward to. Don't be scared of it. Whereas other people are afraid that, no, it's going to infringe on copyright. People won't be compensated. And, of course, a lot of artists will be out of jobs. Well, this has led many artists to argue that AI art generators have been trained on stolen art. So, indeed, that's what some artists are saying. Yes, you're producing this art, but where are you getting the inspiration? Where are you getting the images to base your new images on? Yeah, you're stealing that stuff. You're just going out on the internet and downloading these images without the permission of the producers of those images.
And with stolen art, a lot of times the art that is created by AI, because they create it by merging a lot of different types of images that they've collected, it's also hard hard for a creator to prove that that was their original creation, right? So in a way, it really is really sad for a lot of artists because they can't even prove that their art has been used by the AI.
A similar situation is when somebody writes a song and then somebody finds out, hey, that song sounds just like that old Tom Petty song or something. So you got that idea from somebody else, didn't you? So it's kind of similar there. If AI produces these works of art, somebody may recognize that, hey, I recognize that frog. That's the picture of the frog I took when I was traveling in North Carolina. I took that picture in a swamp. You guys stole my picture. You should give me some money for that. So yes, that's what artists are arguing here. The art is trained on stolen art, and even though the art that AI creates is original, that is, it's not an exact copy of anyone else's art, the fact that it uses the labor of real artists without paying for it is something that many artists find unacceptable. So if you've seen AI art before, you probably can say that, well, that's original. I've never seen that picture before. But again, it's based on images that already exist. So again, that's the question. AI uses the labor of real artists. Labor is like the work someone does, right?
Right, because usually labor is implying that it's hard work, right? And artists, they do have to put a lot of heart into their work and they put their labor of love. So it's hard for them to accept the fact that these computer-generated art is taking their creation and making it their own.
Exactly. So that's what artists feel. They are using their labor without paying them for it, and they find that unacceptable. Now, add to this, or also consider this, the fact that AIs are being used by companies as cheaper, faster alternatives to employing real people. And it's easy to understand why many working artists are so upset. So yes, if you run a company, of course, you're always trying to figure out ways to save money, to stop spending so much money. And you might be thinking, if we're an advertising agency and we produce art for our clients, and if I can use AI to produce that art and the clients like it, then I don't have to hire any artists who basically sit around in the studio all day smoking cigarettes and talking about the latest Fellini movie or something like that.
The word alternatives means other choices or other options. So companies are choosing AI as an other option, as an alternative to hiring real people. So alternative is when you choose something else or when you have different choices or when you're replacing a certain item with another cheaper alternative or another cheaper choice.
Indeed. So an alternative, of course, is just something else that you can use in place of the first one. If you can't use the first one, then you can choose something else. That would be your alternative. I got fired from my job, so I have no alternative but to look for another job. I've got to, raise my family and pay for food and stuff like that. So this may be a faster alternative for some companies, a better choice for them to actually use a computer algorithm and not hire people. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson for today. Let's move on now to the third and final part. We will come back and discuss it after we listen to it.
Nevertheless, even as debates over the ethics of AI-generated artwork continue to rage, the technology itself continues to improve. Therefore, while there's no doubt that humans will continue to create art to express themselves, whether artists will continue being able to make a living from their art in the future is far from a certainty.
第三部分我们看到名词 certainty， 指的是确定、肯定性或是确定的事。举例来说 I can say with certainty that I've never met her before in my life. 我可以很肯定的说，我这辈子从未见过她。
Okay, nevertheless, which means basically, despite all that we've said before, still, even as debates over the ethics of AI-generated artwork continue to rage, the technology itself continues to improve. So yes, we're talking about this at the moment. Is it ethical to use AI art or is it bad? So we're spending all this time arguing about it, but at the same time, we've got these computer programmers working in offices and laboratories or whatever, and they're improving AI-generated artwork. Indeed, it continues to improve. Now, we're talking about the ethics of AI-generated artwork, and we did mention this before in the form of unethical, but ethics, that's a noun. It just talks about the things you should do and the things you shouldn't do, especially in regard to things in the workplace, like law ethics, for example. Is it ethical for a lawyer to reveal some information to a client that he shouldn't reveal? Things like that. That would be unethical.
And here we see that AI-generated artwork continued to rage. So rage can have different meanings. And in this case, it's a verb. And to rage all night is to cause something to happen constantly. So it's all the rage. When you say that something is all the rage, all the kids are saying TikTok is all the rage nowadays. So it's something that's really popular. So here when we see artwork continue to rage, that means people are still talking about whether or not AI-generated artwork is good or bad. But regardless of all the discussion, the technology behind AI-generated art, it's still improving.
Exactly. And of course, here we're using the word rage as a verb, which means something violent is happening. Hey, Mom, can I go outside now? No, you have to stay inside. There's a typhoon raging outside. It's dangerous. Things are blowing around. It's raining hard, etc. So yes, we've got these debates going on, but the technology itself continues to improve. And in the next sentence, it says, therefore, while there's no doubt that humans will continue to create art to express themselves, whether artists will continue being able to make a living from their art in the future is far from a certainty. So yes, we do have AI art, and it's going to continue to improve, but still, people, well, they want to pick up a pencil and do some sketches on paper. That's never going to go away. People like to do that. So humans will continue to create art to express themselves. And maybe they may get some ideas from AI, and who knows, maybe AI will start suing the artists for stealing their ideas.
So when you're making a living, it's the job or the profession that you choose to do so that you can make a life from it, so you can make money from it. And making a living is the way you make your money.
Some people make a living by teaching. I believe that's what you do, right? And when you're not in the studio, you're teaching, right?
Right. And I also produce different programs. So I make a living a different number of ways.
Yeah, I think you also race cars, don't you? You make a living that way as well.
Yes.
So yes, that's of course just working and producing enough money to take care of yourself and your family to make a living. And yes, indeed, though, we're talking about this in terms of artists. Can they continue to make a living with their art, or will they lose their jobs to AI? Yes, indeed, that is far from a certainty. A certainty is something that is certain, that we know for sure about. You could also say their art or producing their art in the future is far from certain. You could also say it that way. We just don't know at this point. We're going to just have to wait and see what happens with AI. Is AI going to take over everything? Is everybody going to be out of work and the computers will run the whole world? Is it like Stephen Hawking said, it's probably too late. AI is going to take over. We're doomed.
And certainty is to be able to know that something is going to have an outcome or know something for sure. So at this point, we don't know. Maybe artists, they will be able to continue to make a living, or they might completely be replaced by AI.
Well, let's hope they can continue to make a living, and other people in different fields can also continue to make a living doing what they want to do and not have AI take over everything. Okay, that brings us to the end of our discussion for today. It's time now to turn things over to Hanny, our beloved flesh and blood Chinese teacher.
各各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第一部分提到，在大多数情况下，这些图像的使用并未经过原创作者的同意，而原创者也没有因为使用其作品而以任何方式获得补偿。好，文中是用 These images were not... nor were the original creators... 去表达说这些图像并没有怎么样，原创者也没有怎么样的语义。好，那我们来学习这样的用法。当我们用 nor 或者是 neither 也可以念作 neither。那这两个单字呢，可以接在否定句之后，去表达什么什么也不会，什么什么也不是。那么用 nor 或是 neither 开头的句子或子句呢，必须将助动词或 be 动词移到主词前面来形成倒装，那就会写作 nor 或是 neither 加上助动词或 be 动词加上主词。举例来说， Nick is not the best player on his team, nor is he the worst.Nick 不是队上最优秀的球员，他也不是最差的。好，我们再造个例句。Karen didn't call me, neither did she text me. Karen 没有打电话给我，她也没有传讯息给我。好，那另外我们也可以用这样的句型呢，去表达否定负荷，表达说自己跟对方的情形一样。那假设朋友说I haven't been to Iceland. 我没去过冰岛。那如果你也没去过，这时候就可以说 Neither have I 或者是 Nor have I. 我也没去过。好，那同学们在使用 nor 或是 neither 表达否定负荷时呢，记得它们本身就带有否定意思咯，所以后面不用再加 not 就可以表达出也不的语义了。好，读到课文第二部分第一句，他说这使得许多艺术家主张 AI 艺术生成器是用那些偷来的艺术品训练的。那文中是用 This has led many artists to argue that 去表达说这使得许多艺术家主张那这边用到句型 lead somebody to 加原形动词，是表达使得或是让某人做某事。那还有一个句型是 lead to somebody 加上动词 ing， 也可以表达使某人做某事，导致引发某人做某事。举例来说， Her passion for helping people in need led her to become a social worker. 也可以说 Her passion for helping people in need led to her becoming a social worker. 她那一份想要帮助有需要的人的那种热忱呢，使她成为一位社工。好，那这边也顺便复习一下 lead to 的用法。Lead to 可以表达造成导致，那么后面可以接名词或动名词，这时候它的意思就跟 give rise to 或是 result in, bring about 或者是 cause 等等差不多。举例来说， Poor eating habits may lead to obesity. 不良的饮食习惯可能会导致肥胖。好，那以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Compensate.The restaurant refused to compensate the waiters for their extra work. Labor. The athlete's labor paid off when she won the gold medal. Alternative. Casey is considering some alternatives to her current job. Ethic. The ethics of animal testing have been a subject of debate for many years. Rage. The storm continued to rage all night, causing significant damage. Certainty.There's no certainty that we can complete the project on time.
Discussion starter starts now!
Okay, everybody, it's time for our discussion starter for today. The question is, do you think of images created by AI art generators as original artwork? Why or why not?
Well, I think technically speaking, they are original art because they've created something new. But I myself, in my opinion, I'm not a big fan of AI technology or AI art because I think while some of the images that they create, it's pretty cool to look at, but I feel like it's losing a bit of that human touch.
Indeed, so I kind of agree with you. Yes, they are original, they are new, they're probably images that we haven't seen before, but when you find out something is artificial, when it's not real, when a person wasn't involved, you kind of go, oh, really? That was produced by a computer? Well, I don't like it anymore. Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I am Kiki.
See you next time.